Actually, it's kind of a lot about what you and Janet were kind of talking about there at the end. It's about having conversations.
Okay.
I've been an agnostic atheist for a while, was spiritual before that, and it hasn't really been an important issue in my life until recently because my family respects adults, and it's always like, you do what you do.
Yeah.
But my sister has... I have a niece and a nephew who are just amazing kids. I know everybody says that, but they're amazing kids. And they're 5 and 7 now, and they're starting catechism. The family is Catholic. Our family is Catholic.
Sure.
And they're starting to ask questions, and they are noticing that their Aunt Andrea, she doesn't go to church as much, and she doesn't pray, and she doesn't do things. So I'm going to have to start answering those questions soon. But it occurred to me a little bit ago that I don't think my sister actually knows that I am completely agnostic and atheist. I don't believe at all anymore. And I don't know how to start this conversation with her because I don't want her blindsided when her kids come up and ask me what I think in God, and I say, well, I don't really think there is a God.
Yeah, that would be, well, I guess the first thing to do is kind of gauge what your relationship is with your sister. Are you close? Do you talk a lot? Or is it kind of see each other once a month or once a year?
You know, we chat. She lives across the state from me, so we see each other about once every 4 to 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
We chat via phone and Facebook and stuff all the time.
Nice. So, when you were going through doubts before you kind of reached oh, okay, so there is no God, did you ever talk about your doubts to your sister?
A little bit. We talked about, when I was talking about my problems with the Catholic Church, we talked about that, and we talked about when I was going through my spiritual but not deistic phase, we talked a little bit about that. But it was never super in detail because she never rejected it. She understood where I was coming from, but it was never important enough for her where she would feed back into the conversation, if that makes sense.
I completely understand that. So the odds are she's probably pretty primed to get to hear that from you. If you've had those conversations with her before, even, you know, a little bit at a time, it wouldn't be coming completely out of left field. Do you think that you're close enough with her that if you did initiate this conversation, you would be able to survive as sisters from it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I think we probably would. I think I worry that it might, you read about people, they talk about how talking with an atheist makes people think about death, so I worry that it would make her draw away for a while, but I don't think it would be permanent.
Sure.
But I also don't want her to feel attacked, like I'm saying that she's wrong.
Right, right. Oh, completely understood. You know, so this is completely my experience, and I could be wrong, especially about your personal experience. I don't know you and your sister, but what I've seen is that when I've talked to Christian friends of mine, and they didn't know that I was an atheist, after I brought it up, it didn't take long for them to try and turn me into their pet project. So it wasn't I don't want to talk to you, it's I want to evangelize to you. And I was cool with it. I actually really enjoyed those conversations. So if you're, I mean, it's just something to consider that you probably might have those conversations, but I have a feeling you could probably handle yourself pretty well. So that's not a huge worry for me, I think, listening to you.
So when you talk to your Christian friends, you know, was it something that came up naturally in the conversation, or you started it? If you started it, my big problem is I don't know how to start the conversation with her, and it's pretty clear, especially since my niece is about to go through First Communion, this is going to come up soon.
Yeah. So
because my niece asked questions about everything. We had a 20-minute conversation the other day about why some people have tattoos and others don't.
Right. I would advise, if I were in your shoes, what I would do is I'd come from this open, honest place that you're coming from when you're talking to me. If you say, hey, there's this thing I want to talk to you about, and I've been afraid to talk to you about it because I care about what you have to say. You might get better reception if you don't jump in with the atheist word. I know some people are going to be really upset about that in comments, and that's totally okay. But the baggage that I came with was that an atheist is not just someone who doesn't believe. An atheist is someone who worships the devil, or that actively tries to subvert, you know, the religion that I'm in, or the religion that I was in. So what I would say is, you know, I don't believe. You know, you can bring it up, and you don't need to be this this mountain of, you know, this pillar. I'm completely secure in it, because it is your sister, and that vulnerability translates. And being able to be vulnerable with your sister is important, especially if you have that close of a relationship with her. Doing that, I think, can help, because then it can say to her, I'm not on guard for myself. I'm not worried about her trying to evangelize to me or to deconvert me. What my sister's trying to do is talk to me, and she doesn't believe. Okay, and from there, it's going to take some time. The time will come where she'll try and convert you. If you want to have those conversations, they're a blast to have. If you don't, though, at least it can open up the ability to have other conversations in the future. Because when you start with that not being open with the people that you care about, and you can be open with the people that you care about, it can be detrimental in the long run, from what I've seen, because you're keeping a secret life. But, you know, obviously, if this was different, and I'm just saying this for other people watching, you're not in this situation, but for people who are dependent on family members who are religious, or know that they would be ousted from the community that they're in if they were to say, I'm an atheist, don't do that. Like, don't do that if you can't afford it, because nobody's depending on you. There's no heaven that's going to come to you for evangelizing that. But on the other side of it, being that person for people, if you do get to be that person, because there's a good chance that your sister's going to have questions for you too, not just her kids. And being able to answer those questions makes you a resource, not just for her kids, but her family. And it's going to be okay. But if you're interested in calling and letting us know, I'd love to be able to talk to you about what happens.
All right.
So
well,
if you're interested.
Thanks for listening.
Absolutely. Andrea, if you're not interested in calling because, you know, it's personal, I completely understand, please email. Our email is webmail, or no, it's not, it's mail@talkheathen.com, M-A-I-L @talkheathen.com. Let's see if we can get it on the lower third. Mail at talk, no, not happening. That's okay. Andrea, you take care. It's wonderful talking to you. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye. Ah, it just gives me the warm fuzzies. I love it. I know that it might seem, it may seem like it doesn't make a lot of sense. You should be an out atheist. You shouldn't be an out atheist. I advise against it. I advise for it. But the reality is I can't speak to everybody's personal story. I can't speak to whether or not you are able to talk to your family about it. But what I can say is that for those of you who are able, you're making it easier for people in the future to be able to do that. And that's important. It's important because when you get to be a resource for people, that means it takes the pressure off of people who aren't ready to talk about it. And it doesn't just have to do with God. It winds up spreading out. We really, really promote skepticism. And skepticism doesn't just have to do with religion. It has to do with whether or not you know enough about a specific thing to be able to say with authority, this is right or that is right. It can end a lot of lines of questioning. It can end a lot of lines of thought. If people were to say, oh, hey, I don't need to look into promoting and supporting looking for cures to diseases. If people stopped and said, you know, we really don't need to advance medicine anymore, we're just going to pray for it, that stops things. And we should talk about it, because they are. And the more people that we can have that will say, hey, I'm for reason and rationality. We are in a climate in the United States where we need it. We need to be able to say, hey, I'm not a giant controversial person. I'm somewhere in the middle, and that's okay. So